Everyone, I'm Patrick Curtis, CEO and founder of Wall Street Oasis, and I have a great one for you today. This chat is with Jacob, a WSO Academy alum that was able to break into front office investment banking at Morgan Stanley, coming from Case Western. Jacob joined the Academy in the middle of his sophomore year, and in this chat, he shares the 2 key tips that allowed him to make the most out of his networking calls. Enjoy. All right, Jacob, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Really appreciate it. Everyone, if you could just give everybody just a quick summary of your bio, that would be a great way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up on the East Coast pretty much my entire life and decided to come to a small school in Cleveland, Ohio called Case Western, which typically isn't known for finance. So definitely had a bit of an interesting journey into the world of investment banking.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about why did you go to Case, Case Western of all places? Obviously in high school, you weren't thinking investment banking then at that point, yeah?
No, I definitely wasn't. I was a soccer player in high school.
Yeah.
And, went through the entire recruiting process for that. Knew I wanted to play at a Division III school with pretty high academic standard. And, originally wanted to do engineering, which is why my focus was on Case Western. Mm-hmm. So that was the original reason for choosing the school. But then I got here, and that's kind of, when things changed. I tried a few different types of classes and found that I really enjoyed accounting, which is pretty surprising. But enjoyed, the people that were in our business school and decided to make a change. And I'm really happy I did.
What do you have to declare a major or whatnot in Case, sophomore year?
Yeah, sophomore year.
So it was you're kind of exploring freshman year, but did you even know what investment banking was? When did you kind of figure out, oh, this is interesting? Was it once you started taking those kind of accounting, or did you do any finance courses too?
Yeah, so I didn't have any direct relatives in finance or in investment banking. So it was really just trial and error. I decided to join our school's investment club, which I'm sure is how a lot of kids, learn about investment banking. It was really through that process that, I met a few upperclassmen and through them, through different mentors at Case, that's kind of how the journey began.
So was it mostly spring semester you kind of said, oh, this investment banking thing is interesting, spring semester freshman year, or was it more over the summer? Or did you have one conversation where it was light bulb went off, you're oh, I better go after this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a kind of combination of all those things. Our school runs a Wall Street Trek, and it's basically a program where we bring in different professionals in the higher finance industry. And it was kind of through those conversations I learned about the different careers. And it sounded like investment banking had that competitive edge I was looking for that I got with soccer, in high school. So that was kind of the first thing that flipped the switch in my mind that said, this might be the career for me out of undergrad. And then, yeah, it was through that summer that I did an internship in wealth management. And I was I enjoyed the overall topic, but it wasn't the place I wanted to end up. So that's kind of how I transitioned to investment banking.
Got it. Okay. And then, so I assume around that time, you also came across WSO at some point when you were doing some Google search or something, or upper class.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't understand, half of the lingo that was being said on the forums, but, over time, I started to get a little bit more used to and found the platform pretty helpful.
Awesome. So you came there, you also saw, obviously you saw WSO Academy. What kind of prompted you to apply, or you were thinking, hey, this might be for me? And I'd love just to hear about that process of just the thought process around it would be interesting.
Yeah. So like I said, Case Western it's a high academic school, but not necessarily extremely finance oriented. There's a select few students who have been able to break into investment banking, but I felt like I needed kind of that extra push to polish my skills, my interview skills especially, that would help me perform well in the interviews. And then it also just came down to really needing a network of individuals that I could kind of rely on throughout the process. I knew it wasn't most likely going to be very easy, as I learned through, recruiting for soccer and I knew it was a long process, so I wanted, a group, a community to be there throughout it, and that was kind of the reason I wanted to, join the academy.
Yeah, so you came in and like you did a resume review. You got your resume, I assume, reviewed through AI as well. Make sure it was all like all the pieces were all T's were crossed and I's were dotted. Did you like jump straight into the mock interviews right away, or was it more of like you used this to help leverage your networking as well? Like did you follow the accountability matrix and go step by step, or were you just like racing forward?
Somewhat. I mean, I think I joined the academy middle of November, first semester of my sophomore year. So I knew recruiting was coming up pretty fast. So I went through the resume review, like you said, and then kind of began editing it.
So just going back, so when you were making the decision to come into WSO Academy, you had mentioned basically you wanted to kind of have like that network or support system, right? And so talk to me a little bit about just, you came in, were you like networking right away, or you kind of followed the steps that we prescribed?
Yeah, I networked somewhat before that, but I knew it wasn't to the level that I needed to be successful later on. And one of the things that stuck out to me was kind of that right inbox tool and the ability to kind of mass network, which is something that I felt I really needed to be successful moving forward. So that was definitely, one of the main things. And I kind of focused on that early on because I knew I didn't have too much time. And that was definitely really helpful. That was probably one of the main benefits I got from the academy. I think I went from, maybe sending out 50 emails in a month to 1,200 over a 2-month span. So it was
like crazy. And were you, how were your conversions on that? I think some of the students are probably interested to hear like, okay, out of 100 connection requests, were you seeing around 25, 30%, 15% acceptance, something like that?
Right. I mean, I don't know. 25 might be a little much. These are very busy people, and again, it's cold outreach, so you can't.
Any alums, and you didn't have a huge alum network, right? To tap. So you were
exactly. A lot of these individuals didn't go to Case Western. It was just I found them off LinkedIn and shot them a cold email. But I will say, it ended up just because of the scale, I was able to convert, probably about 75 calls a month. And it was, you felt very busy during that time for sure.
So how did you feel in those calls initially? Then how did it progress? Like by the end, so your first call, or you'd already done some obviously, but kind of your first few calls to kind of your last set of networking calls. Can you explain the difference for the listeners, just how you felt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it was like night and day. When I first started, there was a lot of nerves. I didn't really know what were the right questions to ask. And then I kind of figured that out through just, pure, just not doing it again and again, but then also, working with some of the mentors through the academy, and they helped me, reframe my thinking and help me understand what I should be asking so that I can, use that moving forward, but also just because I'm looking for a career, I want to be working with the right people, not just, asking them the same questions over again and getting nothing out of it. So after, I kind of reframed how I thought about these networking calls, it really started to become like second nature, and you learned how to talk to really any type of person, whether they were, much more soft-spoken or someone who liked to
super outgoing and crazy. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. So it's interesting from like a non-target, the response rate is probably lower. You have to obviously do a lot more legwork to get the same number of calls. But I'd be curious, like how many actual first round interviews you got to using that. You obviously put in a lot of work. You did a lot of calls. Was it in the 10 range, 5 range? What were we seeing in terms of like getting through, not just high reviews, but actually to talking to somebody on the phone or going in person?
Yeah, I think I was relatively lucky. I ended up getting my offer on my second round of interviews, which I think is probably pretty unique from a non-target perspective. But yeah, I would have imagined it probably would have been, in like the 10 to 15 range, because I still had emails coming in, about first rounds that I was very fortunate enough to say like, no, thank you. But
well, I don't blame you for taking, is it Morgan Stanley? I think we'd say, so it's pretty impressive. Like, I think that's one of the few banks you'd say, yes, I accept right on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you have some amazing offers kind of coming down the pipe. So I think it's a testament to you being able to lock that down so early. It's probably also a testament to your interview preparation. So talk a little bit about like the amount of hours you spent on like both technical. Obviously, there's a lot of work one-on-one with the head mentors to help with your story and all that stuff. But talk a little bit about like the self-study you did for the technicals and then the mock interviews you did with the head mentors.
Yeah, I guess to address the self-study first, you know, that was when I thought about investment banking, I was like, this is a very strenuous job. And because of that, I figured, you know, if I want to break in, I'm going to have to put in, you know, a similar amount of hours beforehand. So a lot of that came down to running through the 400 guide, using the resources on the Wall Street Oasis platform, as well as like IB Vine, and flipping through those flashcards when I had 5 to 10 minutes and just challenging myself. But then a lot of it also came from, you know, running mock interviews and just information sessions with some of the head mentors. And that was really helpful, especially going into the interviews, because it helped me kind of learn, you know, not only the subject matter, but also kind of the lingo and how to speak and convey your ideas so that, you know, the interviewers on the other end, who are also bankers, can understand what you're saying and kind of realize that, you know what's going on here. And it helps you come across a lot more polished and authentic at the same time.
Did you feel like that was helpful, especially with like specific product groups and coverage groups? Like, where you're like, I have an interview with like TMT or FIG, for example, or something else, oil and gas. Like, where did you find that helpful? Were you looking at like specific mentors that for those types of interviews? I know you only had a few because you locked down an offer so fast, but just tell me, like, did you experiment a lot with that? Or was it more like, hey, focus on just a few mentors and go forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was actually all that I focused on, because my first round of interviews happened to be with a restructuring group, which, I didn't know much about that going into it. So I had I had 2 days before my first round to really learn those concepts, and worked with a mentor who was in restructuring. He helped me get through that. And then, got moved on to the next round and worked with him even more. And I think that's a testament to how much the mentors are willing to devote their time and kind of take you from really knowing not a lot about the subject at all, and then kind of almost be able to get through it entirely. So it was pretty impressive.
That's great. Well, I mean, your story is amazing, non-target to bulge bracket. We've seen it a lot here, but I think yours is really impressive, given that it's not like you started early freshman year or even knew what you wanted. You were not late, but you were kind of getting to the point, joining with us. It's the point where it was, a couple months before things really got crazy. And so I think it's a testament how much work you must have put in to really get up that learning curve so fast to do that well in the interviews. Any kind of final last words or tips of advice you'd give to other students kind of looking to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd say is, whether you're still in your freshman year and you're considering whether like the WSO Academy would be right for you, I think, from that perspective, it's great. We're able to teach you how to network and give you the skills very early on. But, if you're in my situation and you're kind of coming down to the wire, I think it's still definitely worthwhile. And it's really good to have that type of community that can work with you throughout that process. You don't feel like, you're kind of going through it blindly. So, I want to take this chance to, thank everyone again for their help through my process, and wish the best to everyone else.
You earned it, man. You really did a ton of work, and it didn't go unnoticed. So just want to say congrats, and thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Absolutely. Thanks.